Warning, this video is intended for adult collectors. It contains plastic collectibles, questionable opinions, and the biggest Blitzwing fanboy of them all. Do not panic. This is just a random review.
Since I have already gone on about the majesty that is Warrior Class Hammerbite, I decided it was only fair that we also look at his new mold wavemate, the brand new version 2 Starscream. Yes, he got a completely new mold, and if you've played with the original, that's a really, really good thing. I think it's actually kind of impressive because even Bumblebee and Megatron had to settle for remolds, where Starscream got something completely new. And by completely new, I mean very, very new. So let's get into it. Let's actually take a closer look at this guy. And yep, that is a Starscream, but wow. So for whatever reason, they decided to go very Cybertronian with the design, completely ignoring all laws of aerodynamics and going strictly space fighter for this version. And it's not show accurate in any way in this vehicle mode. And I also don't care because it looks so cool. I love that they went with something completely different. It's not your typical F-15 Starscream. It's not a Tetrajet. It is completely his own thing. I saw someone in my Discord actually compare it to the Vic Viper, which is the starfighter from the and now I'm gonna get it wrong. Gradius games. Just making sure. My brain going, Galaga. No, it's not Galaga. It's an old arcade. No, it's the other one. It's the side scroll. No. But yeah, the Vic Viper definitely looks like this. Google it sometime. It is a very similar shape. I love this design though. I absolutely do. These huge, massive wings going all the way past the nose cone. It's an extremely cool look. He's a very aggressive looking fighter jet. Translucent cockpit does actually show a couple of seats molded inside. Not that any human would ever pilot him. Why would Starscream have those? Well, he's disguised as a real jet. No, he's not. I don't know. Maybe that's how small Minicons or Micromasters are in this universe. Just in case he needs some seating room. Now, on the underside, that same translucent orange is on the null rays, though because they are gimmick loaded, they do not point strictly forward in this vehicle mode, which is a little bit disappointing, but, whatever. They're still in the right spots, so for in most positions, they look absolutely fine, so I'm not going to harp on it too much. And here in the rear, we do have some thrusters molded in, not painted, but really not necessary on this design either. That is one thing I am going to point out, and it's especially noticeable in robot mode. They did actually go pretty extreme on the paint apps when you consider this is the Warrior Class series. And a lot of those toys just had a lot of paint stripped in order for budget for their gimmicks, budget for their sculpting, what have you. They lost a lot of paint, so this is going to be impressive in some regards. And then there's other regards, so we need to go ahead and get to that. So follow along with me, boys and girls. I'm going to fold up the wingtips. That is step 1. I'm going to fold these. That is step 2. And I'm going to fold the legs all the way around, like so, and we will call that step 3. I'm just going to flip around because he's already done. Yeah, so that's it. That's all you get on the transformation. His arms peg in under the wings to hold him in place, but it's not really much of a transformation step. You're just unpegging the arms because they're still right there. We're going to talk about this because that's going to be what makes this toy tricky as I slightly adjust the frame. Yeah, I really want there to be more to this transformation. I'll go into detail about it in the wrap-up, but seriously, it is about as bare bones as I've ever seen for anything, even in the Warrior Class line. That is such a simplistic transformation that it is frustrating, because I really expect to have a little bit more fun when I transform things. And I'm really not kidding you. I have toys from the one step line that have just as many transformation steps. I am not kidding. I have one that might have more, as a matter of fact. It is a little bit frustrating. So let's put that aside, because that's a big issue we're going to wrap up with. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at the robot mode for what it is. And what it is very well sculpted. Like, that is just spot on Cyberverse Starscream. It's a far better likeness than they went for on the original figure. And that holds true for pretty much the entire sculpt. In proportion and design detail, he is very much closer to the animation model than the original toy was. And then there is the paint. Oh my god, the paint on this guy. Warrior class toys, like I said, tend to skip the paint in order to save budget. But here, they went all over the place. We've got the tampograph Decepticon symbols on the wings, the striping on the inside, giving him this iron butterfly look, by the way. And then all the forearm, the bicep, and the shoulder, that's all painted. Everything between shoulder and elbow, that's all paint, because that's like, I think it's molded blue. Yes, you can see molded blue. Hands painted. Molded red chest, so all of this is painted. Separate insert for the cockpit, the fake one. Thrusters inside painted. Metallic blue here on the legs. I'm going to show you, even here, the underside of the wing extensions, also painted. That's a ton. Like, they did not miss much on this. They really, like, tried to impress. So it feels to me, and I'm going to say this, it feels to me that they wanted something that went into the Warrior line, but could still fit in with, say, the deluxe class figures that are on a much higher standard. Now, I'm guessing that because they only had 8 figures, they picked those 8 characters, and whatever. But then, like, this one comes out, it's so much closer to Starscream from the show, and then it has so much more paint. I'm going to bet that it was just kind of a compromise. We don't have room for Starscream in the deluxe line. Let's do a version 2 Warrior that actually has a much, much nicer look. Just one reviewer's guess. So, going into, like, what makes him and what the articulation looks like, the head is on it's very tight, but it is on a mushroom peg. It rotates left and right, though the chin does stop it, so it doesn't have too much left and right. The shoulders are where we get our lack of articulation, and that's kind of typical of a Cyberverse Warrior. It is only forward and back motion. That's mushroom pegged, and that's just a standard 90-degree hinge. So you are missing out on that. Nothing in the waist, but we do have ball joints in the hips, and we do have a knee that goes beyond the 90-degree. So 9 points of articulation. Not bad for a Warrior class toy, but he really is lacking in the shoulder. And let's be honest here. The shoulder, that is minor compared to how much articulation the original Warrior class toy lost, because his hips were molded one piece, and his knees didn't exist. So again, vast improvement. Beyond, no more than anything, whatever knock I can have on this figure because of the weak transformation, I have to take it in the context of, remember how bad the first one was and how much better this one is. And then it's a lot easier to accept that there is a really big downside to this toy. And also, the reason we don't have the shoulder articulation in this one is because he does have a spring-loaded gimmick. Not some weird, like, oh, his waist spins around, his wings might flip up with centrifugal force, maybe, and it'll happen so fast we'll wonder why he even bothered. No, here you push the cockpit closer, and it flips the null rays up. Now, for kids, that's not a bad little attack gimmick. You know, it's a little bit characterful for Starscream, and it is one of those gimmicks where you get one activation key for something that happens on both sides of the toy. I always kind of like that. It's a little bit more dynamic. Granted, for this particular version of Starscream, the shoulder-mounted blasters are inaccurate. He keeps his on his forearms, so this is a little bit of a cheat. And it's kind of retro in doing so, but at the same time, it's also inaccurate, but it gives it a gimmick, whatever, take it for what it is. So that's pretty much the bones of it. He is fantastic in vehicle mode. He is fantastic in robot mode. The limited shoulder articulation is minor compared to what he was in the past. It's frustrating if you view him all on his own, especially if you're not a fan of gimmicks being crammed into your figures. Typically I'm not. It comes down to, if you really want a good representation of Cyberverse Starscream, this is basically your only option because it's by far the closest to the animation model. It's just so boring in the transformation. That transformation is so simple and just so quick that there's no challenge to it. There's nothing interesting about it. He's not fun to transform just because it's over so quickly. And there's something to be said about a transformation you can do quickly and just pick up the toy and flip it into robot mode, and that's not a big deal. I kind of get in that mood sometimes. At the same time, yeah, it's just dull, and I know that's gonna break this figure for some. But you have to account for like what you get out of it. And it's so hard to recommend because it's got two great modes, but getting between them is just such a afterthought. Like it's hard. Like, can you justify making the element that makes it a transformer so uninteresting if it means getting two modes that still look really, really good? That's yours to decide. I'm just here to show you what the toy does and what it's all about. And honestly, you know what? Like, I still have fun with this figure. Enough fun to say I'm happy with the purchase. So you know what? Yeah. I'm just happy we have a good-looking Starscream, and I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, count them with me. So, 1, move everything down. 2, we fold this together. 3, we fold this up. 4, we straighten out the feet. 4-step, 1 changer. Just as complex as the Warrior Class Starscream.